What's good, everyone? Welcome back to Some of the Pack. My name is Jake, and today I'm bringing you an Oathbreaker deck tech using Saheeli Sublime Artificer and Thoughtcast. So this is more of a budget build. Last video I did for Oathbreaker was using Wrenn and 6. Definitely not a budget build, although I did provide some budget alternatives for those who were interested. So check out that video. I played that deck this last weekend. It was a ton of fun. I'm definitely looking forward to getting together with my playgroup and playing it some more. But right now, let's just jump into Saheeli and talk about what we're trying to do here. So the deck, like I said, more of a budget option. It comes in at about $65. I think a lot of you will probably already have a good number of these cards, so probably a lot less. I haven't played this deck in my playgroup yet, but I've messed around with it. It seems like it could be a lot of fun. So Saheeli reads, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. Now that's the real big part of Saheeli that we are looking forward to using. Being able to cast non-creature spells and create 1/1 artifact creature tokens. Her minus ability, target artifact you control becomes a copy of another target artifact or creature you control until end of turn, except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. So we are going to have a ton of artifacts in play, and in some instances we'll be able to copy really, really powerful things like Combustible Gear Hulk, Desolation Twin. Those are kind of the big ones, and being able to swing for like 10, or if we have a Desolation Twin and we're making a copy, we already have a Desolation Twin token, so being able to attack with 3 10/10s is pretty big game. Same with even just like 2 6/6 first strikers. That's pretty awesome. Thoughtcast has affinity for artifacts, so it costs 1 colorless mana less for each artifact you control, and you draw 2 cards. To start out, it's not difficult to reach 4 artifacts, so just being able to pay 1 blue to draw 2 cards is great. An even better part of this is if we then have 6 artifacts, which also will not be difficult to achieve, it will still only cost a blue, because even with the commander tax, the casting cost is 1 less for each artifact we control. So it keeps scaling. So if we get 8 artifacts, still only costs a blue. 10 artifacts, still only costs a blue for our second, third, fourth cast, etc. So that's great for card advantage. And each time we cast it, since we have Saheeli in play, we're going to get another 1/1 servo artifact creature token. For sorceries, Ponder, obviously a great, basically like an auto include if you're playing blue. It's just such a powerful effect for 1 blue mana. Role reversal, you exchange control of 2 target permanents that share a permanent type. Now with this, if our opponent is playing some powerful artifacts or even maybe some enchantments or creatures, we can just swap out a 1/1 servo token or a Thopter token with some giant creature that is, giving everyone headaches or a real threat, right? So this is just kind of a versatile card to keep us in the game, and a little trickery. Gurper Aether Grid will have a bunch of artifacts in play, and you tap 2 untapped artifacts you control, and it deals 1 damage to a creature or player. It doesn't seem like a whole lot, but that chip damage added up over time, and if we have like 10 artifacts in play, that's just 5 damage. That's a great one. Impact Tremors, also, it's a very cheap enchantment, also non-creature, so we'll get a 1/1 if we have Saheeli in play. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, Impact Tremors deals 1 damage to each opponent. Every time we cast a non-creature spell, we'll get a 1/1. It'll deal 1 damage to all of our opponents. I like this card a lot. I use it in my Locust God EDH deck, and it's very, very good there. Kasmina's Transmutation, it enchants a creature. Enchanted creature loses all abilities and has base power and toughness of 1/1. This is just a very cheap, it's not really removal, but it deals with big threats that might be giving us trouble. Antiquities War. So this is a saga card out of Dominaria. So we get to pick a good impactful artifact out of the top 5 cards, put it into our hand, and then kind of move on. The last mode is artifacts you control become artifact creatures with base power and toughness 5/5 until end of turn. This is a great finisher. So if we have 8, 10 artifacts in play, which is not out of the question at all, they all become 5/5s until end of turn. If we have like 10 5/5s, that's probably pretty good for an Alpha Strike on a number of our opponents. Thopter Spy Network. So this, again, it's generating creatures, it's generating artifacts. Great, great card. Instance Brainstorm, again, this is an auto include in any blue deck. It's such a powerful effect. Chaos Warp, This is getting rid of permanents that are giving us issues. It's a very, very good red card. Galvanic Blast, a little spot removal, Magma Quake. Now I like Magma Quake because we're playing Oathbreaker. Hitting planeswalkers is relevant. If we don't have Saheeli in play, or it gets removed, or we just haven't played it yet, or whatever the case may be, Magma Quake not only deals with creatures, but it also deals with our opponent's planeswalkers. So I like this over a lot of other red mass removal, and it's also an instant, which is nice. Reality Shift. So this again is just a quick, cheap, easy way to deal with a troublesome creature that our opponents have. Word of Invention. This is one of the pricier cards in the deck, but I think it's good enough to include. It's a very strong tutor effect. We can go for things like Chief of the Foundry, Unwinding Clock if we get the mana. Unwinding Clock is very powerful. We'll talk about that in a minute. So I like this card. I think it is worth the inclusion. Aether Spellbomb. It's a 1 casting cost artifact, and we can sack it to draw a card if we'd like, and we can also use it to return target creature to its owner's hand. So bounce an opponent's creatures, we could bounce one of our own creatures to save it, and we can also just sack it to draw a card, but really it's a 1 casting cost artifact that's versatile. Two things that we're very interested in. Darksteel Ingot, just a little ramp, it's indestructible. Felwar Stone, again, just a little ramp, and it's an artifact. Same with Izzet Signet, Mind Stone. Pyrite Bomb, same as Aether Spellbomb. It just has some versatility to it, and it's a 1 casting cost artifact. Retrofitter Foundry, very versatile. It only costs 1 colorless to cast. It's an artifact again. You can pay 3 to untap it. You can pay 2 and tap it to create a 1/1 colorless servo artifact creature token. That's very good. It definitely helps our deck. We can pay 1 and tap it to sacrifice a servo, which this thing is generating, to create a 1/1 colorless Thopter that has flying. And then from there, we can sacrifice the Thopter and create a 4/4 colorless construct artifact creature token by just tapping it. We have a number of ways to create 1/1 Thopter tokens already. So in a lot of instances, this is just 1 casting cost artifact that we can play, tap to sacrifice the Thopter we have, and turn it into a 4/4 artifact creature. Great value. Thrown in the God Pharaoh. This again is a card that I have in my Locust God deck, and I find it to be very, very good. So you pay, it's 2 colorless mana. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses life equal to the number of tapped creatures you control. If we're attacking with our 1/1s or we're tapping them for Aether Grid, each tapped creature we have is going to deal the damage to our opponent. So between this, Impact Tremors, and Aether Grid, we can do some serious damage. Unwinding Clock, it costs 4. It is a little bit more expensive. I also think this is a very strong inclusion, though, if you have one or can get one. So it reads, untap all artifacts you control during each other player's end step. So between this and Aether Grid, very, very strong. So if we have, like, say 10 artifacts in play, which again, it sounds hard, it sounds like a lot, but it's really not difficult to achieve 10 artifacts in play. That's 5 damage at the end of each turn. So we tap our 10 artifacts, dealing 5 damage. Unwinding Clock triggers, we untap them, we do it again. The next player goes, we untap them, we do it again. It's a lot of damage. It adds up very quickly. Welding Jar, 0 casting cost artifact. We can sacrifice it and save any one of our artifacts that we have in play. It's very good. Here's a good finisher. Brutaclad Telchor Engineer. So cost 6. So it is on the pricier side of casting cost. But it reads, creature tokens you control have haste. Could be relevant. That's not really what we're really looking at. But at the beginning of combat on your turn, create a 2/1 blue mirror artifact creature token. Then you may choose a creature token you control. If you do, each other token you control becomes a copy of that token that we've chosen. What this means is, if we have, say, 5 Saheeli tokens, servo artifact tokens in play, and let's just say we have a Desolation Twin in play, which is the dream. The Desolation Twin creates a 10/10 colorless Eldrazi creature token. We choose Desolation Twin's token, and then all of our other Saheeli tokens become 10/10 colorless Eldrazi creature tokens. Unbelievable. It's so good. It's so good. It's like you have to include it. It's getting to that magical Christmas land, but I think it's such a great, funny, powerful finisher. It's worth throwing in here. Chief of the Foundry, pretty self-explanatory. We're playing artifacts. We're generating a ton of artifact creatures. It only makes sense to put the creature that gives all of them +1/+1. Combustible Gear Hulk. It's kind of a curve topper. It's not a super expensive card, and it gives us 3 cards, or it deals damage to a player equal to the total converted mana cost of the cards that we're revealing. Chances are it's going to do damage, but we're still okay with that because it's such a fast format. I think the damage is very relevant, especially when we have things like the Aether Grid, Impact Tremors, and Throne of the God Pharaoh. People aren't going to want to take a ton of damage. Plus, we could be ripping things like Desolation Twin and Brutaclad off the top. That's a lot of damage that someone could be taking. Ethereum Sculptor. Artifact spells cost 1 less to cast. Very self-explanatory, super cheap, auto-include. Goblin Engineer. So this is out of Modern Horizons, it's a newer card. To return things like Welding Jar to protect our creatures, maybe Tormod's Crypt if multiple people are playing graveyard type things. If someone destroys our mana rocks or things like our spell bombs, we could be bringing those back. Jorah Weatherlight Captain. So whenever we cast a historic spell, draw a card. Now, historic spells include artifacts, legendaries, and sagas. We have so many artifacts. Every time we cast one, we draw a card. It's super, super good. Loyal Apprentice. It's a 2-drop. It has haste. At the beginning of combat on our turn, if we control our commander, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter creature token with flying. That token gains haste until out of turn. So again, here's just another way to generate more 1/1s, generate more artifacts, makes our thought casts cost less. It gives us fuel for Giriper Aether Grid. It hits on Impact Tremors. It'll hit with Throne of the God Pharaoh. It's just doing more of what we want to be doing. Sigh. Whenever we cast an artifact spell, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter token. And we can sacrifice 2 Thopters to draw a card. We're not too interested in that, I don't think, the majority of the time. But again, here we're generating Thopters. Traxos. This is just a big beater. It is an artifact creature. It costs 4. It's 7/7. It does enter the battlefield tapped, and it doesn't untap during our untap step. But whenever we cast a historic spell, we untap it. So again, that's artifacts, legendaries, and sagas. We have a ton of artifacts. This thing is almost always going to untap, and then just getting in there and attacking for 7 trample damage is fantastic. Great Furnace is an artifact. This is a must include. Seed of the Synod. Again, the blue artifact land must include, and then a couple more duels. That's the deck. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know in the comments below what you would change, if you would change anything, if I missed any major key cards that are must include that are somewhat budget. With Oathbreaker, there are obviously a ton of cards. It's like taking an EDH deck and boiling it down to its concentrate, and then of course using a Planeswalker instead of a legendary creature. But I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Let me know in the comments what you might like to see next, and until the next one, bye-bye.